Welcome, guys, to Annual Planning with a Purpose. For those of you that don't know, my name is Alexis. I am the CEO of Accounting Therapy. And Taylor, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Taylor, and I do operations for Accounting Therapy.
Okay, so this is today's agenda. So basically, we're going to walk through the process of basically annual planning with a purpose. We're going to start with our end game in mind and then kind of determine what the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal is that's tied to that end game. We're going to work through reversing that into what we would create as our goals and initiatives, whether they be annual, quarterly, monthly, daily. We're not going to go that deep, but you could take your initiatives as deep as you want. And then we're going to go into questions. Obviously, you guys have any questions, we're happy to answer them. So first and foremost, we want you to meet our avatar for the day. His name is Alex Maverick. He is the owner of a photography company called Maverick Visions. He's currently at a gross revenue of about $1.5 million a year. And Alex's big dream is to retire in 15 to 20 years. So we're going to kind of see how we can help him get to that point and get his dreams to come true. So in starting with our end goals, this is my favorite part of goal setting because it gives you your why. It's the why behind all the things that you do. So in starting with the end in mind, what I usually tell people is picture yourself in your house, in your favorite room in your house. What is the view from your house? Who are you with? What do you see outside the window? What are the things that you do for fun on the weekends? Who do you spend your time with? What are the things that are important to you in your life? Once you've determined what that vision is, then you're going to create your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal that's going to support you to be able to do that. So do you need $1 million? Do you need $100 million? Do you want to, live in an island in Thailand? Do you want to, live in a flat in New York City? Like, what is your dream and how are you going to support yourself? So in building your end game and then your big, hairy, audacious goal, in doing the BHAG, you want to envision your day as you grow through that. So what does your day look like? If you are managing 25 employees, do you want what that looks like? Do you want what that means? Do you want the responsibilities of 25 employees? Do you want the cost of having 100 employees and having to support their medical insurance plans? Whatever that thing is, do you want to have to work 12 hours a day? Whatever the process that is going to happen to get you to that BHAG, do you want what that looks like? Do you want to live that day by day? So once you decide that you can deal with the responsibilities of getting you to that big, hairy, audacious goal, what do you need to do with your business right now to get you to that spot in 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, years?
And just to piggyback off of that too, maybe the team of 15 or 20 or 50 or however many isn't what you want forever, but that's what you want to work towards to then maybe be able to sell your business or to take a step back and have it run itself and just hire an internal CEO in operations so that you're then just a profit owner. It doesn't necessarily mean that's your forever, but maybe your vehicle is if you're wanting to live in Thailand and an island and be remote and check in once a month, that's great, but you probably need to get your team to like that 20 person or so to be able to run itself first, right?
Okay, so here's Alex's goal. So Alex wants to retire in 15 to 20 years. He wants to own a ranch in Montana where he's rescuing horses and dogs. He wants to have his vacation home in Hawaii, and he wants to sell his business for $40 million, 15 to 20 years. So what does that look like? How do we do that? So the number one thing that we need to know, and the big magic $40 million question is, how the hell does he get there? What does he do? What does he need to get there? And clearly, to take $1 million business to get it to a $40 million business is he's got to grow. So how does he do that?
And he's got to grow it into a sellable entity too. So that's another thing. And we won't dive into that today, but what is a sellable entity? So right now we're going to value basically just a 1-for-1. He has a $40 million business. He's going to sell it for $40 million. But that's not all he needs to take into account. It's his processes, it's his team, it's his culture. It's, his growth or his net profit because or operating cash, because those are all things that you would look at in selling a business. So now we get to the fun part. So this is my favorite part because I'm a total Excel and data nerd. So if anybody needs help with this part, I am happy to dig in. But reverse engineering. So basically, we know where Alex is at today, and what can that tell us about where he's going to be tomorrow or in 15 years? So we're going to look at this today. So Alex's total revenue, he's at 1.7 million today. His average engagement, videography, photography company is $6,000 per engagement. He does 285 annual events, ranging from weddings, corporate events, whatever. And he has one team of photographer, videographers, which includes the editors and whatever. So obviously other people's businesses look different than this. Everybody's not going to have a service-based industry or business. You could have a product-based business in which maybe you're looking at like your average sale or your number of customers. So just know as I kind of work backwards through these numbers to come up with what it looks like in 15 years, you're going to need to kind of manipulate that to like what your industry and what your product looks like. So what do we know? 1.7 to 40 million. If you back into that on a spreadsheet basis, it's about a 25% growth year over year. One thing to note here is that this is a roller coaster. So we learned this because we're projecting X growth over year, but you know what? You're going to have some years that are really foundational development years where you're not going to see a ton of revenue growth. You're going to have other years where like you've got that foundation solid and now you can just add in the sales, right? So just keep that in mind. And as you project out, and we'll get to this kind of in the annual or 3-year plan, you want to keep that in mind of what this year needs to look like to support this long-term goal. So 25% year over year, his average engagement. So we base this on a 5% increase year over year. So we're going to grow from 6,000 average to 12,500 average. So now, backwards. Annual event. So annual events, if your average is 12,500, you divide that into 40 million, come up with 3,200 annual events. That is a lot of events. So what does that mean in team capacity, right? So he needs 11 teams. So basically, I know that Alex's team today can handle 5.5 events per week. So now, that's not going to change. The time allotment's not going to change. So if I'm having 3,200 events, we'll divide that into the number of weeks in a year, and then I divide that by 5.5 to get my 11 team members. So with this, we kind of solidify a snapshot. So where do we go from here? Now we've got to envision this goal. So this is kind of drilling down into like, what does this look like? And this is super foreign, right? Like we've never had a we have a team of 6 or 5. How do we have a team that supports $40 million in revenue? So you envision that. Okay, we know we need 11 photography, videography teams. That's 4 people each. So we've got 44 team members right there. What other departments? We probably need 2 team managers to manage those teams of 4 people. We probably need an admin to support those 11 teams. 2 accounting team members. By the way, TM for us is team member. We identify employees as team members. Feels more like happy and inclusive. We have 2 accounting people. We have 5 sales team members. We've got to sell 3,200 events. We definitely need a strong sales team for that. We've also got 5 marketing team members. We've got 1 person in IT, 2 people in HR, 2 in customer service, 2 execs. So that's a total team count of 66 people. That's a lot of people. So what does a picture of 66 people look like? What else does Alex need? He needs better processes. He definitely needs to raise his prices to get to that 12,000 number. He probably needs some really, really good marketing for that 3,000 and really good sales. and he needs a financial plan. Of course, we're accountants, right? We want a financial plan. So the financial plan is the one thing that we can kind of really dig into and build out what that means right now. So again, you're going to get out your Excel spreadsheet. You know your estimated people. You can project their estimated cost, right? How much are you paying them? You're going to, figure out what type of systems do you need? What type of apps do you need? What type of equipment do you need? And kind of build a P&L around these numbers so that you can figure out what your profit is going to be if your team looks like this and you have 40 million in sales. Because the number one thing we want to figure out for Alex is this a sellable entity? Is it viable, right? Or if you're the person that just wants to sit back in the beach and like run it from afar, is whatever that net profit is enough, right, to support your business if you take a step back and to support your life.
For the accountants in the room, keep in mind you want to do this with your customer. They're going to know their industries better. They're going to know the types of support that they're going to need. They're going to know, the insurances they're going to need based on quantity of team members or types of work they're doing or value of jobs or whatever it might be. So this is something that I would recommend doing with your client.
So from here, we know what it's got to look like in 15 years. So now let's go to a 3-year plan. So the easiest way to start with your 3-year plan is, again, kind of back into that revenue number. So if we know we've got to grow 25% year over year, give or take, we want to back into what that needs to be in 3 years. So for Alex, it's 3.3 million. And then let's talk about our average engagement, right? Because we can control this. He wants to increase average engagement to 8,000 in 2 years. That's a big jump. That's more than 5%. But he thinks that there's room to increase add-ons, and he thinks there's, an increase to just, or room to just increase prices in general. Thinks the market can support that. So with that, again, we back into our annual events. So we've got 416 annual events, and then we back into the quantity of team members. So by this point, he needs to add a second team. So with this, next up, it's going to be the same recipe. Build out the financial picture. What does that look like? If you have now 2 teams, what does that cost? Is the 3-year plan also financially viable? What additional equipment do you need? What are the increased overhead costs? And then at 3 years, you also want to define the processes that need to be in place to support what this picture looks like. So for Alex right now, it's sales. He's going to need a strong sales team by this point. He wants to improve hiring, onboarding, and training processes. He's going to be bringing in a new team. He can't rely on just the team as is, knowing exactly what they've got to do because they've been doing it for however many years. It's ingrained in their brain. He's got to have processes for that. And he needs better accounting, right? Because he's growing. He's now a $3 million business. He's more than doubled in growth, he's about doubled in growth. So he definitely needs better accounting. And those help you create your initiatives. So that's one thing that we've learned over the last couple of years is not just like, oh, I need to add a team member, but like, what's the initiative behind it, right? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean that your time is then freed up to develop process? Because the process is really the initiative to develop the thing, to move your business forward. So that's kind of how we break into initiative, right? From like what we need to have in place at this 3-year mark. So now we know our 3-year. Now we got to find our annual. So this is the fun part. This is the part I love because you get to like really drill down in detail, and then you get to see it come to life in like the near future. It's not so far away, right? But you have a roadmap. And so kind of where you're going. And for me, that really helps to define like, oh, this is why we're doing this year. So in the next year, Alex is going to grow to 2.1 million. And he wants to do a big increase on prices this year as well. So we need to increase our average engagement by $1,000. With that, we've got 300 annual events, and we can still manage this with just one team, which is awesome. So what do these numbers tell us? Because there's a few anomalies in here. First of all, he needs to increase his prices. That's number one. He's got to do that to hit this goal. But if he does that, he's only got to add 15 engagement. That's it.
The
So
power price increase.
that's amazing because that gives him time to build, right? So that foundational year that I'm talking about, that sometimes like you don't see the revenue necessarily because you're putting into place all these processes and kind of growing the meat or like what lives behind the curtain in your business. He can do that by raising his prices, and then he can focus the rest of his effort on building those internal systems that are going to support him in that next 2 to 3 years. So from here, again, we build out the annual picture. So at this point, I like to build out the annual picture in terms of months so that you can, that basically becomes your budget, right? So you can like really define, okay, at this point, I'm adding, this person, or I need more equipment, or we're really going to be focusing more on marketing or whatever it is for your business. But you can do that in terms of months, which is really cool. So then from there, again, define your initiative. So for Alex, in this case, his number one initiative this year is to increase prices. He's got to increase prices to do everything else. And then his second is going to be to focus on building the internal processes. So the sales, marketing, customer delivery. And he knows sales is going to be huge for him, and sales isn't something you can learn overnight. So he's going to try and bring on a sales assistant. But that's supporting this sales process that he's trying to build. So with that, it kind of wraps up our bird's eye view of how we back into annual planning. And of course, the first time you do it, it takes longer because you've got it. If you don't have that BHAG, if you don't have kind of that initial, where are you going and what does it look like, that takes a while to build out and figure out what it is. But once you have that, you can kind of start to modify and adjust year over year, and it's not so big to tackle. But it just it kind of changes and develops, and you learn and you adjust and you start to find things that change year over year that maybe you didn't know the year before when you were planning.
Yeah, things will change every year. Things will change. You'll find a badass accountant that you want to, hire on that's going to be higher than the budget, but they're helping you do all the other things. So things are going to adjust and change. You might find a really great client that's buying a whole bunch of stuff from you at any given time that's going to give you more revenue than you anticipated getting. So things will continue. I mean, even though we're setting this up for the next 15 years, it is not set in stone. It's going to need to be done every single year to kind of support and continue. And, if there's not enough sales in one year, you may have to overcompensate in the next year. If there's way more sales, you may be able to, drop down and, not create such extreme goals for the next few years. So it's an ever-changing thing. Even though we're making a 15-year plan, we're not going to not look at it for 15 years.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the better you get at it too. So like when we started doing this, again, like we had more of like the hire a team member or like do this one thing. It's like that one thing isn't your initiative for your plan. But once you can kind of figure out what your initiatives are, you can also identify like, how does this initiative this year support the 3-year plan, support the BHAG? Right? Because if it doesn't support it, why are we doing it? Do you want to make sure like those happen? And then I would say the other thing is like, if it all goes wrong, it's okay. You just got to do it. Like you learn something, you take away something. Like we did that this year. Our plan for this year did not happen at all. But had we known now what we like, had we known then what we know now, I think our planning for the year would have looked a lot different too.
So clearly we're going to start with the end in mind. Again, that's my favorite part of all this is, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be with? How rich or poor do you want to be? Whatever it might be. What does your end look like? take inventory where you are now. So figure out, this is my revenue, these are my costs, this is my number of team members, these are the struggles that we have. Maybe do a SWOT test. These are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Really define where you are right now so you can figure out what changes need to take place to get there. That is reverse engineering and taking from my $40 million all the way back to my $1 million. How do I want to get there? The reverse engineering, again, will change every year. It's not going to be the same. Build out your financial snapshot, obviously figure out what's happening and how those numbers take place to support the things that, the initiatives that, build out the financial snapshot to visualize what initiatives need to take place to support those numbers. And then, of course, where you want to be in 3 years, where you want to be in 1 year, and then determine what those exact tasks are, just like Taylor just said, determine what those tasks are to support the 1 year, the 3 year, the 15 year, whatever it might be goal. If those things that you are working on are not supporting those goals, ask yourself, why am I doing this? All right. Is questions next? Questions? Anybody have any questions or want to go over anything?
You guys all do annual planning right now for with your businesses? No.
No.
It's okay.
Not like this.
I had a small business for 7 years and we never did. I think I did budgets a couple years, but I never did annual planning. But I wish I had, because it makes sense and it gives you kind of like stepping stones.
Yeah, I've done budgeting as an employee. That one time I thought I would be an employee. But it's not something I get into with my clients, and it's something they want, but it's something I just don't do because I don't know why.
Would you do it for yourself?
I don't even do it for myself. No, I'm sitting here thinking about for myself. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do.
I know that's the hardest part.
Here, huh?
Yeah. That's the hardest part, is going, okay, what is the end and what do I want to do? Like, when is that? Is that tomorrow? Is that in 40 years? Like that's probably was the hardest. It's so much fun doing it, but it's like, what is the end? I'm not going to work. Like, that's all I've ever done. It's
Right.
So I'm going to be on that beach in Thailand.
All righty. Okay. So I don't think we have any other questions or anything. You guys have any comments or anything? Anything you want to throw out or add in, or?
What do you guys think of the 30-minute format?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Nice, like quick hit.
Yeah, I like that. Everybody does hour and a half, and the 30 minutes is like, it's nice, it's concise, it gives you shit to think about, and you could actually be done and like maybe take notes and start thinking about it, versus for an hour one, it's like, I got other stuff I got to do. I don't have time to reflect on what I just went through. So it's nice, it's quick. But I was like Stacy, I kind of thought, and I know that, again, you can reverse engineer it and do it for yourself, but it kind of presented like it was for clients. And now I'm like going, oh, I guess I could just do this for me.
Start with you.
Yeah.
That way you know how to do it and you see the pitfalls and the things that happen.
Yeah.
It's also more fun to do for you because like you get to reap the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to have to, now I've got another job to do. Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Merry Christmas. Margie, did you have a question or comment or anything?
Nope. Wanted to say thank you. Nice, quick sprint through the concepts. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, guys. Well, then I guess that's all. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it, and have an amazing holiday, and see you on the flip side.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.